Hello everyone, I'm happy to see that you're back, and also the ones that have taken the Empath self-assessment. This is something that I didn't say in the other video, but I recommend that you do this alone. You don't do this with a person giving any type of feedback. This is all has to be from you 100% and honest. Also, don't do this with somebody that you're potentially dating, because if that person is a narcissist, they will take this information to use against you in the future and to manipulate you. Okay, so I just want to go over the questions because there's no right or wrong answer, whether it's yes or no. That's perfectly up to you. But I want to talk about some of the questions and how that doesn't have to remain like that. So if you're talking about feeling certain things, you could have an intensity level of 1 or 0 to 10. Just like if somebody says something mean to you, you could either internalize it and explode and get into a state of being in attack mode, or or saying something nasty back, or you could just let it slide and not care. So the same thing with these questions. You could look at them and help to see what you need to work on. So, it's funny, it's an assessment to see if you're an empath or not, but you could use this as an assessment to see what you need to work on and what really jars you or triggers you the most. So let's go through the questions really fast. Number 1, I have been labeled as overly sensitive, shy, or an introvert. That's fine. If you're shy or you're an introvert, that's okay. You could remain one for the rest of your life. I used to be painfully shy, and I still kind of am with certain things. Making these videos was not easy for me to partake, but I feel like I needed to do it to help people. So I'll go outside of my comfort zone to do something for somebody. Introverted, I still am. I'm totally proud I am one. No problem with that. Overly sensitive, I used to be overly sensitive, but that wasn't healthy either. So, looking at how people talk to you and treat you, the most important thing is not taking it personally. Because if you take everything personally, you will be overly sensitive in every situation. It has nothing to do with energy-wise. But I'll go into other videos that cover this in more depth. I just want to go through these pretty quickly. So you could change that. You don't have to be overly sensitive. You could be highly receptive, but you don't have to be overly sensitive or be in reactive mode. So this is important. Number 2, do I frequently get overwhelmed or anxious? This will always happen as an empath, but you could control it. It's just like watching the Hulk, right? When Bruce Banner starts to get angry, his heart rate starts to go up, and then once it gets to a certain point, he changes. So you could start to notice this, and there's techniques to help you from not being so anxious and overwhelmed. And these are things we're going to go over for sure. I'm not going to do it now, but I'll have videos that cover each thing and techniques and practices that we could do to help minimize it, where you're not in reactive mode all the time, or you're not letting other people pretty much invade your aura or your personal space or your energy or your heart or your mind. What's number 3? Do arguments or yelling make you ill? Yeah, most likely that will never change. Even if you try to ignore the person, whatever, it's just not in you. You're not a person that likes conflict, then that's never going to change. You just have to be around people that don't create much conflict. If you're around somebody who loves drama, you're always going to get it. Sometimes you got to let go of those people, especially if you're able to. Number 4, do I often feel like I don't fit in? That could be like forever. It's like you'll find a group of people or a few friends that you feel 100% comfortable around, and this is amazing because it's not quantity, it's quality. So if you have 2 amazing friends, that's good. You don't need to be in groups of people where you have to try to pretend to be something you're not and try to fit in, because that could become very exhausting. That's something that a narcissist does all the time with everybody, and you're not one. So it's something that you don't need to do. You just have to find the right people to be around. And using these questions will help you gauge if the person's toxic or not. And if they are, You have to start to love them from a distance. Okay, what's the next one? Number 5. Am I drained by crowds and need alone time to revive myself? That's part of being an empath. It is. So you have to, allot your time in certain situations where you might not stay as long as you wanted to, because you have to take care of yourself. Self-care, self-love is super important, because if you don't give it to yourself, nobody else will. Number 6, am I overstimulated by noise, odors, and nonstop talkers? Yeah, that's part of it, right? You can't help it. You're an empath. You notice a lot of things that people don't notice. You can control your reaction to things, but also you can limit your time around these things. This is important. This is why sometimes somebody, if they wear certain types of perfume, or if they wear a lot of it, or cologne, it's really too much. Noise depends where you are, what neighborhood. If you're in a place where there's a lot of honking and stuff like that, or if you're trying to study and you're in a coffee shop that's really noisy, you're not going to be able to concentrate. This is difficult to do as an empath. This is why it's good to be in places where there is peace and quiet. Because like now, if I don't talk, you don't hear anything, right? This is my apartment for most of the time. Non-stop talkers. It depends. If the person's, talking about stuff that you love, it's great. If they're complaining and triangulating and negative, it's super draining. And some people just talk way too much too, where it's just like, I need a break. So sometimes if you're on the phone and the person's rambling and it's not a two-way conversation, it's one way and it's all about them, you just say, I hope you feel better, but I gotta go. You gotta take care of yourself. So you gotta make yourself a priority, because if you make everybody else a priority, you're the one who's gonna suffer. Number 7, do I have chemical sensitivities or can't tolerate scratchy clothing? Yeah, I can't. My skin is super sensitive. It's like if I use the wrong detergent, my skin breaks out. When I get tattooed, my skin breaks out. It's just my skin's super sensitive. And when it comes to sense of touch, the best thing for me is cotton, silk or wool or any stuff like that. It's like my skin can't tolerate. So, but that's everybody to each his own, right? Number 8, do I prefer taking my own car places so I can leave early if I need to? I learned that a long time ago. That's really important if you have a car. If you live in the city, you could just hop on the bus or a train. But I never like to be put in a position where I'm stranded, where if the person gets drunk, or if the person's irresponsible, or if you just go somewhere you really don't want to be, but you're there to do the right thing, but you don't want to be there till the very end, but that person drove you and it's that person's event, you're stuck there. So these are things you got to think of for yourself. If you know it's an event, like one of my friends his daughter had a 16-year-old birthday party, her sweet 16. I knew I wasn't going to be there for long. The music is too much for me. The group of people, I have some close friends there, but it's like all strangers. The music's really loud. There's a lot of drinking going on. It's just not my thing. So I stayed as long as I could to show my support, and then I was able to leave when I needed to, so I think that's important. Number 9, do I overeat to cope with stress? Some people do, some people don't. Usually if I'm very stressed, I usually lose my appetite. So I'll lose a lot of weight. But this could be with depression and other things too. So this could have a lot of different shades of gray to this answer to this question. Number 10, am I afraid of being suffocated by intimate relationships? Yeah, if I meet somebody that's too needy and needs to be at me 24/7, it's too irritating. It doesn't matter how much I care about the person, I just need alone time. That's it. And I explain to them, if they're not okay with it, it won't work out. If they're okay with it, great. And if they're the same way, even better. Because it doesn't mean that just you need alone time is that you don't want to be with the person. You just know what you need to stay healthy and balanced. And sometimes it's just being alone, and it has nothing to not do with loving or caring about the person any less. Number 10, do I startle easily? Some people do, some people don't. I had a bunch of cats where if you it'll jump to the ceiling. And then I had a cat where most cats hate vacuums, but Frisky couldn't care less. You had a vacuum around him because he ain't moving. So it depends on the person. It depends if you were ever abused physically, if you were picked on when you're younger, if you have PTSD, all these things come into play. So that's why I'm saying with these answers to these questions, you have to look at a lot of things with yourself. Do I react strongly to caffeine or medications? Caffeine has like almost no bearing on me. I could drink a lot of coffee or no coffee. I could drink a lot of coffee for days and then not for days. It's not that it's good for you, but it has no effect on me at all. Red Bulls, yeah, which I stay away from. Medications. I'm super sensitive to medication. I've had a lot of operations, unfortunately, and it usually takes me like a week or so to feel back to normal from any of the anesthesia. I usually don't take a lot of meds for certain things because any of the side effects, I feel right away. Any time in the military I was forced to get any flu shot, I got deathly sick and the flu anyway. So everybody's body's different, right? Number 13, do I have a low pain threshold? What does that mean by pain? Is that physical pain, emotional pain, psychological pain? That depends on the person and who that person is that's giving you that stimuli, right? I could put myself into a mode where I block out pain. Like I had some injections deep into my shoulder joint today, and when you started to do it, I just started to meditate and focus on my breath, and it didn't bother me, but some people with a needle this big, it's like, oh my God, and start to get anxiety. So these are things you can work on. This is, my point of this video, and we'll do stuff like that. Do I tend to socially isolate? If you're an introvert, that says it all. If you're an extrovert, probably not an introvert, right? And if you're an extrovert, you're probably not an empath. Certain things go hand in hand, right? A yin and yang, right? The black and the white within a yin and yang. This is just normal. Let's see, number 15. Do I absorb other people's stress, emotions, and symptoms? Yes, 100% of the time. And training yourself to not absorb the negative energy is something that takes a lot of practice. The time that I find it the most difficult is when you finally get into a relationship with somebody. Because what happens, you let your guard down, you let some of your defenses down, and sometimes you really feel it. And this is, anytime I'm around anybody who's toxic or has a mental illness and they're irritable or whatever, even if they're trying to pretend that they're not, I could feel all these things. I felt being around somebody like almost like if I was possessed, where I could feel their anger and stuff like that, and I was almost projecting it from it, and I couldn't, and I was like, wow, that's not who I am. I'm like, why am I feeling like this? And the person was calm, nothing came out of them. I realized not too long after they suffer from narcissistic personality disorder and bipolar disorder. And I used to pick up everything, and I'm like, why is this happening? So that you can't control, but at least you could start to work with it, and as you understand it, it's super important. Number 16, am I overwhelmed by multitasking and prefer doing one thing at a time? One thing that you could become great at is procrastinating, right? And that makes everything worse over time because you're running out of time. And I used to be a master procrastinator. I'm not anymore. If I have stuff to do, I prioritize everything and I get it out of the way. Multitasking, I read a book called The One Thing. There's no such thing as multitasking. That means you're giving everything undivided attention and nothing really gets completed. So to really focus on one thing at a time is key, and that will lower your stress. Multitasking, it just doesn't work. And I have ADHD, so this is something I had to be aware of on my own and figure out and fix, and it was super easy. Once you are aware of something, you have the choice to work on it. And then there's a million books out there, and there's other people that now, social media, you reach out to somebody, you say, or you go follow a group, and you go, oh wow, this person feels this too. What did you do to help yourself? And then this is how things start. And that's what I'm trying to do with you guys. And, give you some information to help you to go find your own path. In Zen or regular Buddhism itself, they call it the pathless path. Why? Because Everybody has their own path to go on. Everybody finds their way. Everybody could be looking at the mountaintop, but everybody has a different way of getting there. Some will be longer and shorter routes, and that's okay, because this is your life, this is your karma, and this is your destiny to find these things out on your own so your soul could grow. Let's see the next one. 17, do I replenish myself in nature? We covered that already, right? And if you do, and you live in the city, try to go to the park more often. Try to find a place where there's some grass and trees, or by the beach, by water, something of that nature. Number 18, do I need a long time to recuperate after being with difficult people or energy vampires? Just think about it. The longer you're around that person or those people, the more recovery time you need. Just like a workout. If you do a light workout, you won't be so sore tomorrow. If you do a really heavy workout, you might be sore for a couple of days. So think of it kind of like that. So that's why sometimes you have to lower your exposure time. Number 19, do I feel better in small cities or the country than large cities? I went to Pennsylvania like a month or two ago, and it was, Amish country. It just felt amazing being there. I live in the city, the concrete jungle, so it's like anytime I'm by the water or nature, I just feel so much different, and it's a great feeling, that's for sure. Number 20, do I prefer one-on-one interactions or small groups rather than large gatherings? Always. I was a personal trainer for almost 25 years, and I used to have to teach different classes at the gym, unfortunately, because I was forced to. But I always called myself a one-on-one person. There's some people who are into open relationships or polyamorous and all this other stuff. It's perfectly fine. You do you. I don't need to know, and it doesn't matter. You just live your life. But I've always been the type of person that loves one-on-one relationships, one-on-one interactions. I love to really focus on the person so I could give them everything they need. If it's a group of people, it's like multitasking. It depends on the situation, of course, but I know I always feel better one-on-one with somebody, because then you could be talking to somebody any way you want because you know them, and and your friends and all this stuff, and you don't have to worry about somebody listening in and misinterpreting stuff, and then you have to go work harder to disprove something that was just in their head, so all these things are things that I'm going to cover and give you techniques on when it comes to being an empath, to help you live a better life and be more peaceful and more useful and just more happy. Because if you're not letting people stress you out as much, you're going to feel more charged all the time instead of depleted, and you'll be able to do more. But the most important thing is always taking care of yourself first, because it's just, Majai used to always say, drink as you pour and pour as you drink. You can't give somebody water from an empty cup. So if you really want to be of service to people, make sure your cup is full first and overflowing. And this happens by just taking care of yourself and doing simple things. All right, so just wanted to talk about the questions and where we're going to go with all this stuff. So thank you for tuning in. God bless everybody. Talk to you soon.